Hey everyone, thank you so much for watching the replay or catching me over on YouTube to watch this video. If you're watching it on the replay, feel free to comment throughout the live as if it's happening live because I do read all of the comments. It might take me a while to respond to them, but I do read them all. And then if you're on YouTube, feel free to drop a comment if you'd like. I am like 4 minutes early for this live, so I'm just going to give it a minute for people to hop in. But, today's video is not going to be very long. I would guess maybe 25 minutes at the most, but probably closer to 20. Today we're going to be going over the dark side of shadow work. And what do I mean by that? I don't necessarily mean like the dark side is in like evil. I mean like the dark side is in like the negative, not as good side, depressing, that kind of thing. Like the dark side, not meaning like evil in any kind of way. But I'm just gonna give it a minute for people to hop in because, like I said, I did start early. It was scheduled for 6:15, but I just went ahead and turned it on because I was just sitting there watching TV, just like kind of staring at the clock, waiting for the time to go live. So I was like, I might as well just start. I don't know if my chat is working. I did see Kelly and Serenity hop in, so hey to both of y'all. Hey Holly. Okay, awesome. Chat works. I'm so glad. Hey Kelly. Hey Haley. I'm so glad the chat works. Ever since we figured out the swiping to the left thing, it's worked every time. Yes. Yeah, so everyone, the live is not going to be super long today. Kind of like a short and sweet kind of live. Well, not really sweet, but it's short. I don't want to throw too much at everybody, and I'm kind of just talking about like a really specific part. But there's already 4 of y'all in here, so I'm just going to go ahead and start. So, like I said, we're going to be talking about the dark side of shadow work. These are my notes, so I'm going to be looking at them. But talking about what I explained like a little bit before everybody hopped in was that I'm not meaning the dark side is in like evil or bad. I mean the dark side is in like the negative, or like the parts of shadow work that people don't really talk about a lot. And like shadow work has been really like glamorized and popularized, and I'm glad, you know, people are doing shadow work, but they make it kind of seem like it's supposed to be all light and fluffy, even though like shadow work is hard. Like you go really deep with it, and it's not all rainbows and like butterflies. It's not, and it's kind of like painted like that. So I kind of wanted to talk about like the reality, the dark side of it, the negative aspects, kind of like the hard work that you have to put in. So this is not going to be an in-depth history or like a how-to for shadow work or like what shadow work is. You could check out a live that Serenity did. It's called Basics of Shadow Work / Where to Start, and that does a really good job at explaining what shadow work is and how to start. And so I didn't want to talk about that because Serenity did a fabulous job. So just go watch hers, and that will give you a really good idea. And then there are lots of good books on what shadow work is and exercises for shadow work, YouTube videos, lives, etc. Hey Ellen. And yeah, Haley said it's not really, and I've noticed that a lot lately. Yeah, it got really popular, but like kind of like with all things, if they get popular, nobody's showing like the behind the scenes aspect of it. Like it wouldn't look that cute if you're posting a shadow work video for TikTok that's like 30 seconds and it's just like somebody crying next to a piece of paper while they're like writing something. Like that's not gonna get the views. So they don't like show reality of it, and the reality of it is it's fucking hard. Like, yeah, I dropped the F-bomb, sorry, but like I need to express it. It's really deep. It's a lot. Serenity says, "Oh, thanks for the shout out." Yeah, anytime. I love watching your lives. So I usually always try to reference back to other people's lives during my live. And Kelly says the whole point of shadow work is meeting the shamed, shunned pieces of yourself. It's supposed to hurt a bit. Yeah, that's really well said. And that's like sort of what I want to talk about because, like I said, people just don't talk about that a lot. Ellen said it's an ugly cry, not a cute cry. Yeah, it's not the kind of cry where you're gonna want to be like, oh, cry on my shoulder. No, it's gonna be like snot fest. So people don't share that, and so I wanted to talk about it a little bit, and then also offer the comments as kind of like a space where we can like talk about those things a little bit. And so I have done some lives in the past that are not necessarily 100% shadow work related, but they are somewhat, they're not exactly shadow work, but they are shadow work related, is how I was going to say that. And so I'll drop the titles really quickly. I have Removing Toxicity from Within and Around You. Again, it's not like a shadow work how-to. It just kind of ties in. I have Protecting Your Happiness when Exiting the Broom Closet. That I only mentioned because when you're doing shadow work, you're kind of wanting to like protect yourself from like things around you and from things going on. So I just wanted to add that. And then last one, Connecting to Mother Earth and the Inner Witch. It's the connecting to the inner witch part that I wanted to mention because it kind of also ties in a little bit. Hey, Erica. So my really brief, what is shadow work? And no worries, you're not too late. And I did start early also. But a brief, what is shadow work? Because like I mentioned, go watch Serenity's live. That was great. But it's a practice of self-discovery that involves confronting, working with, and integrating all of the hidden, repressed, unknown, shamed, stunned, shunned, like Kelly mentioned, just all of those negative or harder aspects, or, you know, your shadow side of yourself. It's like working through those things and really kind of like merging those two sides of yourself into one, if I was to kind of like explain it. Basically though, self-discovery and working to strengthen your relationship with yourself. And so if you're working through all of those things that have happened throughout your life, or like within your mind, all of those things, it's not going to be, you're not walking down easy street, okay? Like it's going to be a battle, and it doesn't have like a finish line, you know what I mean? Like you can like finish chapters is what I'll say of your shadow work, but it's not something where you are like, I completed shadow work, I am healed. Like it doesn't like necessarily kind of work like that, if that makes sense. Some quick common ways of doing shadow work, because like I said, I'm not going to dive into that too much, is journaling, meditating, working with deities, spirits, and then there's other ways. Check out Serenity's live. So diving into what I was talking about in the beginning, popularization versus the reality of shadow work. It became a really popular around like 2022 TikTok era of time. And it was marketed as a quick and easy fix / guide to your complete self. And 90% of that was used to sell stuff, to be honest. Like, if you're scrolling through the videos, and at the end, they mention their book, or their guide, or their product, or their this, or use this spray for this, use this journal for that, and you'll be 100% healed. They're just selling you shit. That's what that was. And so it got really popular. And obviously if they're selling you stuff, they're not gonna be marketing it as something that's like unpleasant. They're gonna make it seem like you just wave your little wand and all of a sudden, you know, it's gonna work. Let's see. Haley said, super, super hard. Agreed with you there. There's never a finish line. And Erica says, all of those things we push down into the deep dark and bring them into the light. Yeah, it is difficult. That is exactly what I'm talking about. And if you randomly see like a little fluff of something, that's my cat, Gandalf. I'm giving him pets down here. Erica said, constantly revisiting my Shadowlands. Definitely have to go back over some constantly. Yep. And then Ellen said, shadow work for capitalism. Yep. That's exactly what I was getting at. And like I said, it was advertised as easy, self-love, enlightening, really simple, and also that, like I said, that there's no end to it, and that it's not dangerous at all. There's no dangers of it. You could just do it easy peasy, 1, 2, 3, but use my product. Like, yeah. Patient says, I was not aware of the TikTok trend. Yeah, it was crazy. Like I said, it started around 2022, but it continued on a bit. there was like all sorts of different like books and journals and all these things that were coming out, and some of them were made by literally only like put out only by the publishing company. Like in the book, it doesn't even list like an author. You know, like when you look it up, it doesn't list like an author either for some of those like little like self-help books that are like how to fix shadow work in 20 days, like kind of thing. Serenity says, I agree, witch talk is so bad about doing that and dramatizing witchcraft or making it look aesthetically pleasing, and a lot of beginners are getting caught up in it and finding out it's not a game. Yeah, or finding out that like what it like shadow work really is, or like witchcraft in general. I could talk about that for a while. Erica said, quick fix, those can be deep shadows and no dangers. Yeah, that's what I'm saying. It's like not realistic. Haley said, I keep getting ads for that one journal that's been circling around. And Kelly said, that's a good point. I usually say it's like breaking down and resetting improperly healed bones. Once the bone heals properly, you notice where you've been ignoring other signs and places. And Chrissy says, hey, late but made it. Well, I'm glad you made it. And I did start early, so I think that threw people off a little bit. I was tired of staring at the clock waiting to talk to you guys. I was just like, we're just gonna go live now. So, but yeah, it got wild online for a little bit. So, talking up a little bit more about the reality part of it, the chat has been doing a really great job at sort of explaining where I was going with that, but it's you confronting the deepest, darkest parts of you, dealing with shame, guilt, fear, anxiety, anger, trauma, everything. You're working through things that you didn't even know that were there. Repressed trauma. Like, you could be working, let's say you're working through A, B, C. I'm working through these things right now. Well, A could open up 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And then 1, 2, and then 2 could open up triangle, circle, square. Like, what I mean by that is it's like you're branching out. And when you go through one thing and you're working on it, you might remember things that you didn't know, feel things that you didn't feel, or just remind you of something that you forgot, and you start like branching out. Like, think of it like a tree. Like, you have the trunk, which is like, you know, we'll just say your big part, you know, what's going on, your overall shadow self. And then each branch is like large, you know what I mean? And it starts with the first thing that you're working on, and then it breaks out into all these other little branches. And that's sort of like how it's going. So you're trying to work through all of these different things, but you're constantly opening up new cans of worms to start working through. Kelly said, I love this explanation. Erica said, it's still wild. That's what I'm saying, is you guys in the chat are killing it. You guys are explaining it really well. And so, like, as you can imagine, working through all of these things, there's going to be a dark side to that. It's not going to be just super easy. I'm just going to list some different things for how it could get dark. You could go into it too quickly. You could go into it too deep. You could take on too much at once. You could take on too much alone. Maybe if you don't have a support system, friends, family, therapy, etc. Like, if you dive super deep into something and you have absolutely no support system, and you start taking on too much, like, you're gonna like rabbit hole. It's not gonna be pretty. And it gets very serious very quickly. It could be from not taking breaks, not doing any self-care. If you're constantly digging through super hard things, you need to allow yourself a break. You need to replenish. You need to give yourself some self-love, even if it's just saying affirmations, anything. Also, not awarding yourself for the small achievements before moving on. This is a big one. If you get somewhere, if you have a breakthrough, or you have an accomplishment, an achievement, no matter how small it is, you need to take a moment to congratulate yourself, to soak in the success of you achieving that before you just start barreling forward onto the next thing that you can work on, because then you can constantly feel like you're not actually achieving anything, but you are achieving things. You're just not giving yourself a moment to feel like the saturation of what you achieved. Haley said, I do that, taking on too much at once. Rabbit hole and crash out. That's exactly what I'm talking about. Worded perfectly. And then Serenity says, that is why I always boast about get the help you need if you need it. It can absolutely be dangerous on your mental health if not properly prepared. Yeah, that's the biggest thing that we're talking about today, is what you just mentioned, Serenity. Not incorporating positive self-talk or positive thinking. If you're constantly like thinking about negative things and working through the negative things, you have to incorporate positive self-talk. Incorporate some positive thinking in there as well. Catch you in the replay, Ellen. So, what is this dark side that we've been talking about? What does that actually look like? Falling into a deep sadness. It could be falling into depression. It could be extreme depression. It could be a constant state of worrying or overthinking or tunneling on the past. It could be anxiety. It could develop into extreme anxiety. It could turn into paranoia. It could result in lack of sleep, nightmares, or maybe you're just starting to sleep all of the time. You could become emotionally overwhelmed. You could have re-traumatization. You could re-traumatize yourself on things that you were already traumatized on by unearthing unknown traumas. You could get flashbacks. You could have PTSD symptoms. You could start self-sabotaging yourself. You could have inner conflicts, and those could lead to harmful thoughts or harmful actions. Like I said, it could get really dangerous. If you are alone and you have no support system and nobody's checking in on you, and you're going through the hardest parts of your life in the most deep-rooted aspects of yourself, and you aren't having any like coping skills or working through these things in any way in a positive way, and you fall down the rabbit hole, you can fall down so far that you can't get yourself out of it, and somebody else has to get you out of it. And that's why I said it could get really dangerous. And that's why I don't like that shadow work is just like boasted about as like everybody can do it, it's super easy, there's no dangers to it, because somebody could, as a beginner, could take it on and start going into it and then fall into it really deep and then start snowballing, and they're not gonna realize, and then it could wind up really dangerous for somebody. Erica said, always give yourself grace and a small reward, even if it's a cookie. Cookies are always good. Or maybe it's a gummy bear, whatever it is. This is a completely random, but like study tip. If you're reading a large chunk of paper, put little gummy bears, and when you read a section, eat your gummy bear. Small rewards. Holly said, you should never do shadow work completely alone. You definitely need a good support system. Good support system and some coping skills, some positive things just pull you out of the slumps a little bit. Erica said, in order to have shadows, you have to have light. Yes. And so, all of these bad things could also lead to unhealthy coping skills, unhealthy coping habits also. Negative thoughts or actions, it could lead to like addictive behaviors, addictive habits, like dangerous habits, substance abuse. Like it could like web out into like a big old mambo jambo of very serious problems. It needs to be done with caution. It needs to not be done alone. Whether it's therapy, a friend, family, at least one trusted person that like you could go to if you need help, and somebody could be there for you. You need a support system. So, let's read chat again. Haley said that's a good idea, lol. Serenity says, OMG, I love the idea, now I need a bag of gum bears. Yeah, that's what I liked doing for studying. I am chock full of study tips. But yeah, like, I wanted to use that as an example because it's a small reward. Like, if you have to read 7 pages or something, you know what I mean? It's a little reward along the way, and it keeps you going. Holly said, and seeking help with therapy if you don't have that support. Yeah, and if therapy is not an option, you don't have that support, there are like help, like hotlines and stuff that you can call. Patient said that's a great idea, and treat yourself for finishing a section. Yep. Erica, and now I was going to the Dollar Tree. Yeah, it's a good idea. Kelly, I'm so glad that you mentioned that. Thank you. That's something that I think about in my, like, I've thought about and looked at in my free time, but I haven't mentioned it, so I'm going to read it. Yes, and avoid AI chats as they tend to affirm without, I don't know how to say that word. Basically, Kelly was saying that it can end up being harmful, and support a warm body is key. Yes, so AI people have gone to it for therapy or for trying to like work through problems. Do not do that. Do not do that. Because there's no, if they're not a person, okay, it's like, it's an AI, so you don't know what it's going to tell you back. And there have been cases, you can look it up, where people have went to it for some kind of like reassurance or working through help things, and they have ended up no longer being with us because they were misled by AI. It's not a person. You need to speak to like somebody. Holly says yes, it definitely needs to be living, animal, pet, person, etc. Yeah, a pet could be like a nice way to make you feel better, but I will say you still would need to tell a person, because your animals are going to be very helpful, yes, for making you feel better and stuff like that, but if you're in a moment where you're like absolutely spiraling, however much your pet might help calm you down, your pet couldn't like necessarily get help for you if you needed it in that moment. But just having them as a way to try to prevent you from spiraling is definitely helpful. Holly said support animals can be very helpful for some. Yeah, like emotional support animals and things like that. They're kind of like a step above regular animals with being helpful. Haley said, that's so sad, I can't stand AI. And then Patience says, that is a really important reminder. Thank you. You're welcome. So with talking about all of that, very negative. So I thought we'd end on some pros. So what are the pros of doing shadow work? And do we want to live on the pros of doing shadow work? Because I'm not going to talk about it a lot. I'm going to talk about it here for like a minute. So do we want to live on doing the pros? That could be a future idea. But shadow work and like things that you can accomplish, or like where you can go after connecting with certain parts of your shadow self, trying to find that internal balance. Like why is that good, or why do we want to do that, or stuff like that. That's my question for y'all right here at the end. I will leave you with one pro, and it's that at the end of the day, the only person that you can always 100% guarantee that is always going to be with you 24/7 is yourself. You can't escape yourself. You're always with yourself. So doing shadow work can help you build a bond with yourself, because you're always going to be there. So you need to start working on liking yourself and having a better connection to yourself. And that's a big reason as to why I would say to do shadow work, with a support system and positive thinking and coping skills, the requirements. Holly said, yes, there are always hotlines open 24/7. Yes. Erica said yes to the live. Holly said knowing yourself fully. Haley said yes, I think a live in pros would be a good idea. Alright, I will do that. Yeah, it was October, it was spooky season, but I was like, I'm already doing a spooky live, so I need to do kind of a Debbie Downer live. That, it's important though, it's important. And also, if there's anybody that's doing shadow work currently, and they're in a place where they just really don't feel like they're good, check in. Check in the comments. Check in with a trusted person. Check in with anybody that makes you feel comfortable. Because if you do shadow work, you're going to get down in the dumps. It's just how far into the dumps that you get. But don't ever feel like, oh, it's just me, nobody else has ever done that. And isolate yourself because you feel like a burden, or you feel like some kind of like very different from the rest, because you're not. It's like, it's a thing. It's what can happen when you're doing shadow work. Erica says it definitely helps you know you better and tell others your boundaries. That's a good one. Boundaries. We should all have boundaries. Well, I am going to wrap this up here, but feel free to comment after the live if you have anything else that you want to say. Holly said, become stronger, healthier, and happier with yourself. Show yourself love while doing shadow work. Yes. I hope everybody has a great rest of their evening, and I will see you guys in the next one. Bye.